Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom Health platform and our ongoing health and wellness series with Dr. Peter Glidden. This is a very unique presentation that we do every other week and have done so for a number of years' duration. It should be unique, but it is. Why? Because we have one of the top naturopathic physicians in our country, if not the world, Dr. Peter Glidden, doing a segment with an MD, someone who is an allopathic doctor. Now, usually allopathic doctors and naturopathic doctors don't get together. Why is that? Because the system has been created so that this doesn't happen. Why? Because as you have witnessed with our series, when it does happen, we bring you the best of both sides of the equation that ultimately end up in your health and your wellness and your empowerment. Exactly something big pharma, big medicine, big insurance, big government do not want. If there's anything that you have learned or should have learned over the past 3 years, is big pharma, big medicine like the AMA, big insurance, big government that wants to dictate healthcare policies that are based on the rationing, denying of care. All of those entities do not want you empowered. They want you their victim. And this is why this series that Dr. Peter Glidden and I have done is so despised by all of those above entities. Because our goal is to provide you information you'll never get through the bought-off lamestream fake media. Frankly, if you're going to an allopathic physician, as an MD like myself, you're not going to get this information at all. Why? I can tell you in my training, the amount of education I received throughout medical school, internship, residency, as it relates to the naturopathic side of medicine, was as close to zero as you can get. Right? But boy, did I get tremendous information about pharmaceuticals, about the insurance industry, No, see, this is really important. And it flies in the face of what each and every one of us have been indoctrinated with over 100 years when the Rockefeller Group Family Foundation took over, if you will, the practice of medicine. And it led to the empowerment of big pharma, big insurance, big medicine like the AMA, and big government. And this is why what Peter and I do is so despised by the syndicate, but supported and loved by anyone who focuses on health and wellness and empowerment of the individual. Today we are going to focus on minerals. Minerals. And are you getting enough minerals? Now, many people are going to say, well, I eat organic and I eat healthy, so I'm getting all the minerals I can. Well, we're going to talk about that with Peter Glidden. And for those of you not familiar with Dr. Glidden, as I mentioned, he's one of the top naturopathic physicians in our country, if not the world. He is also a phenomenal author. Everybody is sick, and I know why. An Attempt to Cure with Holistic Medicine are his 2 books that are classics, truly classics, and should be the foundation of your medical library. Yes, they are available on Amazon. They're also available on his website, drglidden, glidden.com. It's my honor to welcome back our friend, Dr. Peter Glidden. Peter, welcome back to the Operation Freedom Health platform and show, and let's talk minerals.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Well, before we do that, one thing I want to recommend or point out, it's, with the syndicate and the powers that be, it's do as I say, not as I do. Rockefeller's private physician was a homeopathic doctor.
Imagine that.
A lot of people don't know that. The private physician to the Queen of England is a homeopathic doctor. So this stuff is very effective, but suppressed. But when push comes to shove, the people that are pulling the strings want it for themselves. And this is a big problem. Lack of education, lack of a free medical market. I've always said that, as a naturopathic doctor, we're taught in every circumstance to attempt to uncover the root cause of the problem. And that goes with politics. It goes with everything, quite frankly. It's just where my brain goes. The root cause of all of the trouble that we are having medically now, and that we have had medically now for the last century, is lack of a free medical market.
Agreed.
I mean, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and a monopoly is not good for anybody except the people running it. And which begs the question, well, who was it that said the pharmaceutical industry owns the exclusive domain of medicine? Who said that? The only thing in this country that can treat a disease is a drug. Well, really? Well, says who? And why is allopathic medicine the only medicine that's really the only medicine, and everything else is back of the bus, substandard, dangerous? Who said that? And why? And who made the FDA king? And who made the FTC king? And all of this? And it all goes back to centralized power and lack of a free medical market. If we'd had a free medical market in 2020, then none of this would have happened.
I agree. 100%.
Ivermectin would have been approved. Naturopathic doctors would have been the first people brought to the table, because our therapeutics for viral prevention and treatment of viral illness are way superior to the allopathic doctor, and the allopathic doctor is way superior to us when it comes to trauma care and surgery when it's necessary. There's room in the world for everybody, but in a monopoly, you only get one side of the coin. And that's a problem. And this is what we're attempting to remedy here with our series. So we're talking about minerals today.
Yeah, and this all focuses, Pete, on something I focus my research on and still do, on the prevention side of the equation.
Yeah.
See, I agree with you, Pete. See, if people would have gone the naturopathic medicine way, there would have been far less early treatment because fewer people would have gotten ill because they would have been nutritionally supplemented to the point where their immune systems were so geared up they could knock back any pathogen thrown their way.
I mean, 100%. It reminds me of a story. Years ago, I was taking a course, medical nutrition course, that was revolved around the interpretation of laboratory blood work to determine somebody's nutritional status. It's fascinating stuff. And the doctor that was delivering the information told us all a story that he was a very religiously oriented guy, and he worked for Doctors Without Borders for a number of years, and he would frequently go to third world countries to deliver medical care. And he said he was the only one in his group, like 20 doctors, right, that took nutritional supplements regularly and that watched his diet. He said everybody else in his cohort, when they went to a third world country, invariably would get sick with something, even though they were vaccinated, even though they were inoculated for it, whatever. But he never did. He never did. And why was it? Because he had the genes of Superman? No, it was because just what you said. He was nutritionally robust. And because of that, his system was strong and therefore able to handle, the stress of new bacteria, new viruses. You can handle it. But we have virtually no mainstream, has zero understanding of this. Medical doctors have zero clinical experience with it. Nobody knows anything about this except the people in my camp, and the people in my camp are suppressed. And this is a big problem here that you and I are, doing our very best to chip away at.
And as we mentioned, one of the big components to folks' nutritional support is the mineral side of the equation.
Oh, it's huge.
But one of the fallacies, Pete, that I keep getting when I talk to people is they say, well, I eat organically, I eat healthy, I eat blah, 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 and I'm getting all the minerals I need through that. Pete, that is a fallacy.
Yeah, it's because nobody in this country is smarter than a fifth grader, and even fifth graders don't know that much, quite frankly. I mean, honestly, Dave, people don't know the difference between a vitamin and a mineral. And people will say, oh, I get all the vitamins I need, or I get all the minerals I need, and they mean, oh, I get all the vitamins I need, or they have no idea what they're talking about, quite frankly. It's like the whole gluten thing. people will tell you, oh, gluten is bad for you, and they have no idea what gluten is, right?
Right.
It's nuts what goes on here. Again, thank you very much, Monopoly. This from the Department of Redundancy Department. As it turns out, in the 1930s, it might have been 1933, 1934, the United States Department of Agriculture reported to the Congress of the United States that there is an emergency in agriculture because the levels of minerals that are in the soil are dramatically, not just a little bit, dramatically lessening over time. And we have to do something about this. Otherwise, everybody is going to become minerally deficient because the minerals being minerals, animals can't make minerals, plants can't make minerals. If a plant could make a mineral, we could bioengineer gold, lettuce to make gold, right? And that would solve one problem and create another. But the only way that minerals get into the human body is if they're in the soil that the food is growing in. And then the food sucks the minerals up and we eat the food, or an animal eats the food and then we eat the animal. That's the only way that minerals get into the body. Sometimes the minerals can wash into the rivers and then get into the ocean, and then maybe we can get the minerals that way, but even that's stopping now because all the major rivers in the world are dammed up. So the sediment doesn't reach into the ocean anymore, and it's the sediment that carries all the minerals. So that's one of the reasons that the coral reefs and the oceans are dying. I think it's also one of the unknown, unrecognized factors behind global warming. Because the biomass of the ocean, all of the algae and the phytoplankton, is like 1,000 times more than the biomass of the terrestrial Earth. You know, the plants and the trees, it's way more in the ocean. And all of the other green organisms, and what do? They suck up nitrogen and they generate oxygen, just like trees do. So when there's not enough plankton and algae in the oceans anymore because all the rivers are dammed up and no more minerals in the ocean, well, guess what? The oceans start to die. So, and you know, as above, so below. So planet Earth needs minerals to survive. The oceans need minerals to survive. The human body, being 98% water, needs minerals to survive. Minerals are 66%, two-thirds, the lion's share of our body's nutrient needs. And they're simply not in the food anymore. Some of them are, but not all of them. Therefore, it is mandatory, not optional. It's mandatory if you go outside in sub-zero weather to bundle up. You don't want to do that in your bathing suit. It's mandatory if you want to have a healthy body to mineralize your body. It's mandatory. You have to do it. You have to supplement because the minerals are no longer present in the food.
Well, what's the most efficient way to supplement then, Pete? Because people can go to their health food store, right? And they can see an aisle, right, of minerals. And they go, holy cow, I got to take this whole aisle of stuff? First of all, it's going to bankrupt me. Second of all, I don't have enough time in the day to swallow all this stuff. Well, educate our listeners, because you have access as a naturopathic physician to prescription grade supplements. You have access to over-the-counter type of supplements on a mineral side. Educate our listeners on what they should do to mineralize in order to enhance their health and wellness.
Well, see, this is the wheelhouse of my profession, right? This is what we do. I mean, if you wanted, if your kid wanted to learn how to play hockey, you could hire his high school hockey coach as his personal trainer, or you could hire Wayne Gretzky. Yeah. Who are you going to do? Well, you're going to go with Gretzky because he's the expert on it, right? My profession, we are the experts in this domain, and people should just listen to us because we take the Zen sword and cut right through all of the BS. And most of the BS in the nutritional supplement industry is driven by the companies that manufacture the supplements. So, you know, there's all of that going on as well. So the best way, the most effective mineral supplement that I've seen in 34 years of clinical work, and in 34 years of clinical work, you see quite a bit, is the company it's called Organic Plant-Derived Minerals. It's a 32-ounce liquid I think it sells for $22.95 right now. It is the most affordable and the most effective nutritional supplement in the world right now. If I was only allowed by law to recommend one thing, prescribe one nutritional supplement, it would be that. Because number one, this one supplement gives you 2/3 of your body's nutrient needs. I mean, that beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. And number two, the way that this particular company extracts and bottles the minerals is unsurpassed. And this is just common sense. I mean, all chicken soup recipes are not the same.
No, they're not.
It makes a big difference of the details of how it's put together. It's the same with nutritional supplements. So I could talk for 20 minutes and explain the ins and outs of how the manufacturing process, why it's so good. But just take my word for it. This is the most effective nutritional supplement, mineral supplement I've ever seen. It's made from 100% organic plant materials from dinosaur days, which are loaded with minerals. And then that is extracted in ultra-purified water, like NASA-grade ultra-purified water, and then put in a bottle. And then you swallow it. And bada bing, bada boom. Now, the first time that I started taking these minerals, for a couple of weeks, I felt like I was plugged into an electrical circuit. Because there was more energy in my running through my body than I'd experienced in a long time, except when I was on an espresso jag because of midterm exams, whatever. And also things were just better.
And I had the same,
my energy was better.
And I had the same effect on me when I started taking them years ago.
Because you get used to being deficient.
Yeah, right.
You don't know what you're missing.
Right.
And you get used to it. It's like mediocrity.
Right.
And it's the same for everybody, right? So everybody's in the same boat, so you don't think it's unusual, or you don't think there's something wrong because, oh, look, everybody feels crappy. But then you fill that tank up and switches start turning on that haven't been on for a long time. So in this regard, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, pun intended. The proof of the mineral supplement is in the taking, and it's really inexpensive. So get a couple of bottles of the minerals. If you're under 100 pounds, you need one bottle of the minerals a month. If you're between 100 and 200 pounds, 2 bottles of the minerals a month. I would say up to 250 pounds, 2 bottles of minerals a month. If you're over 250 pounds, 3 bottles of minerals a month, because different body weights demand different levels of nutritional supplements. And this is an interesting thing. You know who figured that out decades ago? The pet food industry.
Interesting.
And if all you get, and this is one of life's greatest ironies, is your dog or cat is more nutritionally
sound
than you are.
Right.
Because all of that stuff is in their food. Very little of it is in yours, and more's the pity.
Well, and let's face it, the less there is in our food, the sicker we become.
Yeah.
And the more pharmaceuticals we buy, and the more hospitals we go to, and the more doctors we see, and right?
Yeah, and it's all
one sick formula.
It's one sick formula, which the older that I get, the more objective that I get, the more that I look at this from,
This ain't no accident side.
This ain't no accident.
No, it ain't no accident. No, it isn't. It really isn't. Now, we can talk about this, and then people go, well, okay, great, you talk about this, but where do we get it? Well, the supplements that Pete and I have spoken about, the minerals, plant-derived minerals, are, along with a number of others, are available at OperationFreedomHealth.com. Full disclosure, purchase of the products on OperationFreedomHealth.com does support this platform. Now, Pete, what do you say to the people who say, well, I just can't buy into all this. That why would my doctor, why would the medical profession lead me astray and not tell me about this? Why is it just these two guys on a video that are telling me about this? Why aren't I hearing about it? Because it's a justifiable question, right?
Well, years ago I would have answered that question. But now how I answer that question is, well, suffer and die for all I care. Go ahead. You don't want to believe it? Go right ahead. I don't really care what you believe. You don't really have any perspective on this matter, and you should just trust the medical professional that's been trained in this area. The problem that people make in this regard is that they have been socialized to believe that the allopathic physician holds the secret decoder ring to everything. And if the allopathic physician wasn't taught it, it's simply not valid, it's simply not true. And this also was done on purpose to make people believe in the infallibility and the imprimatur of the white coat and the stethoscope. And that's another thing that we're chipping away at all of the time. And, all I can tell people now when I'm in a good mood, when I'm in a compassionate and giving mood is, look, it's less than $25. Just give it a try, for goodness sakes, and see for yourself whether or not I'm telling the truth. See for yourself how your body responds, and then perhaps maybe we can have another conversation about all of this stuff and to try to bring you up to speed, because you're in the dark, buddy. And you either listen to what I have to say and slam the doors and kick the tires, or just go away, because I'm too old to deal with your nonsense.
Well, it's interesting, Pete, and not to be Pollyanna about this, but if there's anything that's come of good over the past 3 years, is this. I have been contacted by umpteen individuals who said, I started watching your series with Dr. Glidden, years ago, and I thought, come on, if this was really worthwhile, my doc would be telling me about this. My doc's never told me about that. But that same doc, and we can't be specific or else, we'll get there here on this kind of platform, but these people say, but my doc also told me about taking this, and that this was safe and effective, and that early effective treatment wouldn't help, and there was nothing to do from a prevention standpoint. And these same people, Pete, that kind of discounted what you and I have been saying for years, said, I went back to some of your earlier videos. So what I decided to do was actually do things you were talking about. And it's interesting that it's been, the past month has been like, I don't know, just this huge rush of people saying this and contacting me. And they say, here's what they say. Well, I started on what you guys were talking about years ago. Felt better. Went to my doc. Said, I did some research into what you told me to do for the past 3 years, and you really gave me bad information. and I saw these videos of these guys some years back, and I don't know. But I went back and I started doing what they were talking about. I feel a lot better after doing what they told me to do than anything you ever told me to do over a number of years' time. For some reason, Pete, there has been a switch that has clicked on in the past month or two where people who had discounted this information, and I think, Pete, it's a result of what's occurred over the past 3 years. Because I think one of the end results of what occurred over the past 3 years is allopathic medicine has taken an enormous hit to the chops about its credibility and its recommendations that it had given over the past 3 years, and that called into question other recommendations that had been given.
Right.
And I don't think this is not a select group of people that are doing this. I'm getting it from all over the country. There has been a sea change.
Well, thank God for small favors, and perhaps you're right. Perhaps this is the silver lining in all of this nonsense. And the good news here is that, because my profession's therapeutics are built upon natural law, that they're kind of inviolate and they don't change. And, most of the time when you apply this stuff correctly, you get something positive happens. I mean, this isn't a be-all, cure-all for all human ills. This is not that.
No.
But this is next generation, very sophisticated, science-based, clinically verified, effective interventions that people are completely unaware of. I just got off the phone. I was giving a consult with a guy in Arizona. He's got intention tremors, and he had swelling in his feet that we just couldn't get on the other side of. We finally got on the other side of it, and he's like 95% better. And, you know, I've always said, Dave, that the people wouldn't believe the things that myself and my colleagues have seen our patients recover from. And it's not because this is like a miracle thing or like some magical thing. It's because it's just a new thing that people aren't aware of, not new to me, centuries old in point of fact, but effective because it's based upon natural law. And also completely antagonistic, antithetical to the pharmaceutical agenda.
Absolutely.
100%.
100%.
We say it all the time. It sounds like an old saw, but you know, the big pharma doesn't want you to know what we know.
The last thing they want you to know is your body is an incredible healing machine if you give it the right fuel.
100%.
And that's what they don't want people to know under any circumstance.
Yeah.
You got to take it to the mechanic.
Yeah. Right. Exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
You got to take it to the mechanic. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do to harness your body's own capability.
Just wait for the...
Right. Well, trust us. Trust us. Yeah, no.
Too big to jail, too big to fail. I don't think so. Put big pharma in the rear view, ladies and gentlemen. Learn how to make your body healthy, because there are simple things that you can learn how to do that you need to do in order to get this baby rolling. So check out the websites. Inform yourself, bring yourself up to speed, and make a difference in your life once and for all.
Products available at OperationFreedomHealth.com. Other information free for you there. Great video Pete did on the 12 bad foods. Talk about fuel. You want the right fuel in your body. Well, the 12 bad foods to avoid. That video is free on our website, OperationFreedomHealth.com. And then there's Dr. Glidden's site. His 2 books are available. Everybody is Sick and I Know Why, An Attempt to Cure with Holistic Medicine. Plus, he has a huge amount of more even in-depth information at drglidden.com. Pete, you want to say something about drglidden.com?
Yeah, go to drglidden.com, become a subscriber, and educate yourself about what to do to make your body healthy, because healing in the final regard is easy. Surgery is difficult. Healing is easy. You just need to learn the simple steps, and I've got your back.
As do I. Pete, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. I thank you folks for joining us today. After you're done watching this, network this video to anyone and everyone you know and love. The more people that become educated on this, the more people that can become empowered. And the more people that become empowered, the more people that become healthy and well, and out of the doctor's office, the hospitals, and the clutches of big pharma, big medicine, big insurance, and the bureaucrats who have no functional medical knowledge of big government. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.